Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are not on F1 22. We are back on F1 2020, and I have to say, out of the last couple years or the last 3 F1 games, I say this is probably most definitely my favorite. And one thing I loved about this game was the classic cars. And back in the day, I used to do a world record attempt with these cars round every circuit. And I just thought, why not just come back on this? Used to do it on Xbox. So this is my first time on PC. We're going to start off with Silverstone. And yeah, I haven't really been enjoying my driving lately. And I haven't really been driving that much because just F1 22, I think we're at that stage where everyone's kind of a bit burnt out of it. Really looking forward to the next game, and hopefully there will be some improvements. But jumping back on this straight away with this Moser wheel, didn't even have to change any settings, any calibration. The force feedback just felt night and day difference compared to F1 22, and you can see by the smile on my face, I'm having so much more fun here than I have had on F1 22 in the past 6 months, because you can actually feel connected to the car. And don't get me wrong, this is not a sim by any means, but sometimes I think just the small details of actually having an engaging handling model which feels consistent, you actually have the force feedback coming through the wheel, just really can transform your experience. And yeah, I think probably in the last 5 years, it's been F1 2018 and 2020. Those have been my 2 favorite F1 games. And then before that, it was F1 2013 and then 2012. But it definitely feels good to be back on this again. Please let me know if you want me to do this for every track or most tracks before the release of F1 23. Make sure you like the video. Let me know down below. And yeah, you can see by the smile on my face here straight away, it just felt incredible to be back in this game, and I think this has always been a bit of a fan favourite for many, many drivers. So, like we did in the past, just starting with the default setup, so not loading in a setup at all, just trying to remember how to drive this car again, because back in the day, I would actually say I was somewhat maybe of a bit of a specialist in this car. I was always very, very strong in the time trial, got a lot of world records. But you're about to see, here's an example. So coming into this one, I decided to use second gear, and if you look at the delta on the exit of the corner, it doesn't like it when you lose low gears. And why I love this car so much is because it really does punish you. It's very sensitive to what the inputs are through the wheel into the car itself. Because in this one, I would describe this car, in order to really perfect it, you want to avoid turning as much as possible, keeping it in a gear so short shifting doesn't really work that well. You just have to be in the right gear and avoid applying too much steering lock going into the corner. If you turn too much in this car, it's either going to have chronic understeer or it's going to over rotate very quickly. But with the throttle, with I believe the inbuilt traction control this car had back in the day, you can really, really mount the throttle, and you do need to do that very aggressively. If you watch the green bar on the telemetry, the HUD, you will see how quickly we mash the throttle, because it takes a bit of time for the engine to actually kick in. But you know, the sound of this car, the feeling, just sliding it around all the time. I really, really hope we have something like this for F1 23, because this is something everyone enjoyed. And in this game, 2020, you even had access to the short tracks as well. But you can see we did the 29.0, and like I said in pretty much all my world record attempt videos, you want to be building up a bit of a rhythm as you go round the track. So I'd really recommend not restarting, even if you invalidate, just to see where you could be. Unless it was a huge invalidation, it just gives you that confidence and just really builds in that muscle memory. So you can see 28.4, but this up here, I believe it's the fastest up I did with the stock setup, and the record we're going for is a 26.1. I believe when I did this a couple of years ago on Xbox, I got the world record, and that was a 25.8. But I think since then the leaderboards have been swiped, so everyone on the leaderboard has been quite a recent runner. So we'll go try and get as close to that as I possibly can. If I can get within 2 tenths or 3 tenths, I think that's not a bad effort, considering we just jumped on this, haven't played the game for a long time, and haven't really been driving that much recently. So coming through into Copse, not quite a flat out, because the difference between a stock and a setup with this car is absolutely incredible. It's quite often, it's usually about 2 to 2.5 seconds the difference. So yeah, if you're getting within 2.5 seconds of a world record with a stock setup in this car, then you're usually doing something right. Coming towards the end of the Hangar Straight, a lot of understeer and actually ran out wide, so a bit inconsistent track limits. So that really should have been an invalidation, but we're going to continue anyway. And coming through into the last corner, what is this going to be? It's 28.316, and that was 81st on the leaderboard. So we're quite content with that for now. You can see the record is a 26.1, and you can see a lot of these times have been fairly recently. So we're actually going to load in this guy's setup, and we're just going to stick with that. You can see Mr. Jarno Opmeer, 26.195, which I don't think he did many laps. I think he might have even done that in 1 lap when he was doing that back in the day. So I'm sure he can go a lot faster than that. I know that a 25 is possible because I've done it before, and that was on Xbox. So with this, I'm just going to try and get as close to that as I possibly can. Don't really want to be spending too long in this. I like to spend maybe 30 to 40 minutes at absolute max, and you can see already straight away invalidating our first lap with the set. But like I said, I really do encourage you to continue as much as possible, just to really get yourself used to the track, build up muscle memory, because quite often if you just keep on restarting every time you make a mistake, and it's usually in the first sector or something like that, by the time you have perfected that first sector, you've kind of lost the rhythm for the rest of the track. So as time consuming as it may be, I would just encourage you to keep going, build up muscle memory, build that confidence. And you can see going through into Copse here, a little bit of a lift here, but I can see, and you can already see by the delta how much we've improved. So we know there's a lot of time in the table, and it's actually turning too fast for my own good. You can see the surprise by my face. I forgot how incredibly different this car is once you have loaded in a setup. So you can see we're 1.1 seconds up, and coming towards the end of the Hangar Straight, a lot less understeer this time. You can see that delta is just absolutely flying at this moment in time. Going into the final chicane, don't really want to be using anything lower than 54, 53 brake bias in this car. Differential is a bit high in this game compared to the recent ones, and that was a 26.7, so already in the 26s. I was fairly happy with that. And you can see the next lap we did, this was actually valid, so we're 1.6 seconds up. And what's this going to be? Coming across the line, it's a 26.6, so getting up to speed actually quite quickly. That's enough for P6 right now, and I was actually feeling really good. And you know, like I said, back in the day, I think I was actually probably more competitive in this car than I was in the normal cars. This is a car that really does suit my driving style really, really well. And you can see in this lap here, we're over almost 1.5 tenths up. Are we going to go flat out through Copse this time? Yes, we do. We do go flat out. It's a pretty comfortable flat out as long as you get the line right. Magnussen Beckett's completely flat out for this section, middle of the track, and just the level of downforce is just absolutely ridiculous in this car. And you can see we're actually up on the world record. So we're 200ths up on the world record already. But it's his last sector. His last sector is absolutely ridiculous how fast he is through there. So we're up on his time and could have hooked that up much, much better. So yeah, really want to hook that inside curb. And coming across the line, what's this going to be? It's a 26.355. You can see we almost lost. Well, we lost about 2 tenths to him in that last sector. So he really did that well. So we're going to continue again. And this first sector was actually the best first sector that I did in this attempt. And if you look at the delta on the exit here, we're over a tenth up. And yeah, that would put us about 700s quicker than the world record in the first sector. This is actually matches my first sector I did on Xbox. That was also a 0.1. So yeah, really good at that first sector. And again, when you're driving this car, you really want to avoid turning as much as possible. So you really want to be delicate to the steering, going into the corner. Otherwise, it will either bog down or just over-rotate completely flat out again and almost getting an invalidation, but just about surviving. Still a tenth up at this stage, and you really want to be throwing the car into here. Little bit of discipline coming to this corner. You want to be a bit of a slower in, faster out approach, but a bit too cautious on that occasion. And you can see again, about a tenth up on the world record, so we're quite a way ahead, but it's his last sector that is so good, and they're just running out wide, and this time we didn't get away with it like we did when I was using the stock setup, hooking that inside much better. So we're just going to continue again just to get that delta on the board, and coming across the line 26.2. You can see we lost the time in that last sector, and after about half an hour, so that's where you kind of, well, for me anyway, get to that stage where you kind of plateau, and most of the time I would say maybe take a break, come back maybe an hour or so later, because just keep on pounding it down and down, you kind of get stuck in that muscle memory and just making a few little silly mistakes here. And you can see it about a tenth up once again, but still not going to be quite enough, and then running out wide. Yep. But now, this is something I haven't said for a while, this is the fastest lap that I did. So let's go through the lap. Going through into here completely flat out, so trying to minimize the amount of steering as much as possible. And about 100 meters board, once you go past that, we're going to be using most of the track in between here. Try and get back to the middle of the track, short shift into the third gear. You can see how much we're mushing on that throttle. So a pretty good first sector, not quite the best I've done so far, but it's a big improvement. So it's still going to be another 0.1, and then really want to attack this apex nice and early, using all of the track on the exit. So going deep here, let it get to the middle of the track, ignore the first part of the apex, really mush on that throttle once again, keep it nice and tight to the right hand side to minimize the distance of the track, and we're almost 1.5 tenths up. Complete flat out, so just before the 50 meter board, that is your turning in point using all the track. Coming in from the right hand side makes it much easier to shift the momentum from the left to right, middle of the track, and then going over to the left. Bit of discipline through into here, and then using all of this track in the exit. Try and be nice and tight in the exit as well. And you can see we're almost 2 tenths up, so we're 2 tenths up on the world record right now. But we know his last sector is very strong, so a bit of a later apex this time just means we can get on the throttle earlier. You can see we managed to navigate through that quite nicely. Back at the 100 meter board, hooking it inside of this curve again. Avoid turning too much. Look at the throttle. Look how quick and go back on the throttle and going across the line. What is this going to be? It's a 26.076. I was very happy with that. Considering we haven't played the game for 2 or so years, I was very content. And yeah, what I did on Xbox was a very high 0.8, so we're about within 2 tenths, which I said at the start of this video I would have been very content with. So yeah, I enjoyed playing this game again. It brings back very good memories, just how the handling feels, the game. It's something I really hope that we have something similar for F1 23, where we kind of go back to the basics, go back to what people enjoyed. Having a handling model, although it doesn't have to be realistic, but one that actually just feels engaging, just feels good through the input device. That's really kind of the only thing I'm asking for. But please let me know what track you'd like me to do next. I'm thinking of just doing quite a lot, which tracks I like, maybe the short versions as well. And I really encourage you, if you are on PC, I'd like you to actually try and set some laps in here. Give me a time to go after and to try and beat as well. As always, thank you so much for supporting the video. I really hope you enjoyed this, and I will be catching you very soon. Peace.